All right, so we are going to prep X-ray diffraction, or XRD samples for the XRD run. So how we're going to do this is we're going to apply a thin layer of our powder, since that's the form that we have, onto a glass slide. There are a number of different ways that you can prep XRD samples, but this is the way that we're going to do it. It's a thin layer on a glass slide. So you might see other ways out there, but this is the way that we're going to do it. So we have some supplies that we're going to need. We have 4 of these glass slides. I've got the box for you here, so if you want to sort of look up the size and so forth. So the most important thing is that we have a substrate that doesn't have a crystalline structure, because we don't want to detect that with X-ray diffraction. And then to adhere the powder to this glass slide, I'm going to use some vacuum grease. So this allows us to basically a sticky substance that adheres the powder and again doesn't have a crystalline structure, so that we only get the crystalline structure of our sample. And so then we're going to use our powder. So for this one, this is the powder we've been calling Nancy's sample. So the Monday groups, this powder is part of your sample right now, and so we want to see what state is it in. So that's what we're going to do with the X-ray sample. So first thing I'm going to do is these X-ray slides have been used before. You can wipe off the powder and any of the vacuum grease with some acetone and a chem wipe. So I'm going to clean off these slides. So we can definitely reuse slides, so we don't have to use 4 of these for each sample that we want to do, but we want to make sure that they're properly cleaned so that there's nothing crystalline that's going to be on these samples. Right, most of these are in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to give them a quick wipe. All right. So now I'm going to put these all together and show you something about these glass slides. So again, these have been used before, and they've been used before for X-ray diffraction. And so I want to sort of bring your attention to that area up here at the top of the glass slide, that sort of brownish streak in the glass slide. So these are clear glass, but this is actually something that we see happen after X-ray diffraction. So the X-ray beam actually leaves this mark in the sample. It's not something that wipes off. It's not contamination.
Our camera doesn't want to focus.
No. So we'll try to get this camera focused here in a second. Do you want to bring it out a little bit? Yeah, maybe.
See, it's blurry. Come on. There we go. You can see the streak.
All right, so we can see that streak here. Sorry for the technical difficulty. Maybe I'll keep my hand there for contrast. So this streak is what, that streak here is what the X-ray beam that's inside the XRD can actually leave in a sample. So this isn't contamination. This isn't something we can wipe off. This is inherent to the glass. So the X-ray beam actually does this. And so the reason I wanted to show that is it kind of illustrates where the maximum intensity of that beam is. It's on the top portion, and it's right down the center. So that doesn't mean that that's the only place that their X-ray beam covers, but that's where we have the maximum intensity. So it actually spreads out from there. So that's going to tell me where I'm going to basically apply the grease and where I'm going to apply the powder. So first thing I'm going to do is apply that vacuum grease so that I can then adhere the powder. So I'm going to open up this canister, and then basically the best way to do this is just with my finger. So I'm going to put a little bit of this vacuum grease. It doesn't have to be that much. This stuff goes a long way, so this tube will probably last for about 20 years or so. So I'm going to just apply this and use that brown streak as a guide. And all I want to do is have a very thin layer of this vacuum grease. And basically I'm just applying it to the top maybe 2/3 of the glass slide. I know that's a little hard to see here in the background, so maybe I'll try to move it out here. But I'm just trying to apply, you don't need a lot. It doesn't take a lot to adhere the powder, but we just want a nice thin layer. So if there's any bumps or anything like that, we want to get rid of those bumps. So I'm going to try to smooth that out as much as possible. So kind of a really thin layer of that on this. So here at this point, I've got this vacuum grease on my glove. It's probably never going to come off, and so the easiest way to get rid of this is just to throw it away. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this away. Alright, I'm back. I've got another glove, and so we have our glass slide with the with the vacuum grease on it. So again, very thin layer. I don't need a lot. So the purpose of that is just to adhere the powder. And so again, I'm going to use this powder that we have, Nancy's powder, and we're going to put a very small amount. It doesn't take a lot, and we're going to put it directly on to the vacuum grease. So I'm doing this on top of a whey paper for any mess that occurs with that. Let's see if I can get a little bit more. So let's try that much and see what happens. So not a large amount. If I had to guess, I would say 20 to 50 milligrams, something like that. It's not a lot. So what I'm going to do is pick up the glass slide, and you can kind of try to shake it around a little bit. And also, what I'm going to do is tap it off, so that I only have a very thin layer that's adhered. All right. So I have a little bit. But that's not a whole lot. So the other reason I did this on the whey paper is so that I can take all this excess powder that happened on this whey paper, and I can pour it back onto the vacuum grease and try to get it as uniform as possible, and kind of repeat the procedure. Try to get as much coverage as possible. Tap off the excess. You don't want it to. You want to make sure you tap off all the excess, and then kind of keep doing this a couple times until we have a nice layer. Still might do it a couple more times. So it doesn't take a large amount to get XRD signal. So that's the other important thing to keep in mind. Even though we have a very small amount, that can be enough to get good signal. So still maybe try a little bit more. And then let's do it one more time. I've almost used all the powder, so that's a good sign. So there's not a lot of waste here. If you do add a little bit more, that is fine. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with that. So these have some YBCO on them, so I'm going to dispose of these whey papers. And so now I've got the glass slide, which is amorphous, covered in the vacuum grease, which is also amorphous. And I'm going to get this further ready for the X-ray diffractometer. I'm going to write what we have. So this is YBCO, and it's Nancy's. So I just want to make sure it's labeled. So we have this on one of our glass slides. I'm going to stack it on the other clean glass slides. And so as we're going to see when we go up to the X-ray diffractometer, is that the one glass slide isn't large enough or thick enough to go in the machine. So we actually have to stack it. And so we just kind of know from experience that if we stack 4 of these, and again, if you kind of look at the thickness here, you'll see what the thickness of one of these is. 4 of them works out pretty well for this. So right now they're not. Right now they're just kind of stacked, but to make sure that they stay together, I'm going to grab some tape. just some of this label tape. I'm going to grab a section of it and wrap it around so that they don't move. So I'm going to basically go around the top, get all 4 of my glass slides, make sure that they're stacked, and then just tape them together. So this is just so that they all stick together. So now it's not going to move in when I go upstairs. Alright, so since we are going outside this lab and we're going to go up to another room on the 7th floor in FPAP, we've got these containers that are going to hold our glass slides. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in this container that's about the same size as our glass slide. I'm going to have it closed. Again, I've labeled this just so that I always keep track of that. And so now I've done the prep work. I've got my XRD sample ready to go. And so now we have this all ready to go. We're going to stop the video, and then we're going to sort of move up to the XRD room, and we'll show you how that operates.